Building hope of nuclear deal's revival, Iran has given encouraging signs about opening informal talks with world powers and the United States. As the UN nuclear watchdog looks forward to a technical dialogue with Iran, the United States is now hopeful that Iran would come forward for diplomacy. This after European allies dropped a plan to censure Tehran at the UN nuclear watchdog. Iran has so far refused to take part in a meeting brokered by the European Union on reviving the 2015 nuclear deal. But sources say that discussions might start near Nowruz, the Iranian New Year, which is on March 20th.
We supported the E3, we supported it. We also recognize that the Director General has put forward a realistic schedule, which we understand Iran has accepted when it comes to the next steps. And we will look forward with strong interest for Iran's willingness to engage in a way that leads to credible, concrete progress on these issues.
The International Atomic Energy Agency says that it expects to understand what is happening in Iran by this summer. The first meeting is to be scheduled in early April. Iran has accepted to discuss the impending issues during this scheduled meeting. The presence of uranium particles, status of nuclear sites, and the 2015 nuclear deal restrictions will also be discussed.
I'm clearly aiming at having a far more clear understanding of these issues by the summer or before. I think this is possible. This is not something impossible. We have information. We want to compare it with our Iranian counterparts.
Iran has been blaming the West for crippling its economy by stringent sanctions. It is expected to report back on the progress to the UN body by June. The agreement comes as 3 of the remaining signatories to the 2015 nuclear deal with Iran, and that is France, Germany and Britain, backed off the idea of a resolution. It would have criticized Iran for its decision to start limiting access by International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors to current facilities. Now, what could be expected next in the process of reviving the Iran nuclear deal? Listen in from Abbas Aslani, a senior research fellow at the Center for Middle East Strategic Studies, who joined us earlier during the day. This is what he had to say.
There have been developments between Iran and the International Atomic Energy Agency. On the one side, Iran stopped implementing the additional protocol, which reduces the level of inspections by the IAEA by about something like 30%. But in the meantime, Iran reached an understanding with the agency in order to ensure that the agency is able to monitor and verify Iran's nuclear activities. So this created a positive atmosphere, but this was while some European countries tried to table a resolution against Iran in the Board of Governors of the IAEA. But there were intensive discussions between Tehran and those members of the Board of Governors, as well as 3 European countries, as well as the Director General of the IAEA. And in the end, they tried to scrap the resolution against Iran. And it seems that the atmosphere is now positive. There have been some discussions on some locations in Iran which the IAEA needed to clarify, and there have been some engagement on that. Iran and the IAEA will work on that, and it seems that the atmosphere today is a bit more positive than maybe something it looked maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago. After this development, the thing that comes into mind and is the holding an unofficial meeting mediated by the European Union and with the presence of Iran and maybe the United States as a guest. So this meeting, if held, can contribute to the process of returning to the nuclear deal. But let's not forget, up to now, we have been mostly seeing gestures. Gestures are good things. Positive gestures can help the process. But let's not forget, what is the real solution to the problem is the concrete and practical actions and steps by both sides. Iran believes that that was the United States that withdrew from the deal, and they have to return into compliance with the nuclear deal. Then Iran will also resume fulfilling its commitments. So these positive gestures can lead to practical steps, but that's not for sure. And I think Iran and the European Union are working together in order to see that if there is possibility for holding those talks. There's nothing for sure, but I think the possibility and the chance of holding those talks is much higher than before now.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.